Greetings, traveller, and welcome back to Vinyl Tap, and welcome back to That's Not Metal. Hello to everyone who, maybe joined us this series for the first time with our last video, because if you watched that, that was Elliot's first Vinyl Tap for us since joining the podcast, so thank you to everyone who, watched that and gave him a nice comment and all of that good stuff. But if you watched that, this series was a Patreon series for, we've been doing it for a couple years now, but as of that video and the beginning of 2023, it's going wide for everyone who wants to see it here on the That's Not Metal YouTube channel, which, we've been kind of plugging away on this channel, doing bits and bobs here for a while, mainly, podcast clips taken from the main show that we do, which, if you are someone who has kind of stumbled onto us through the YouTube, I hope all of those videos and everything, they come from the main podcast that we do, so I hope you've checked out the podcast. But Vinyl Tap here, our series where we look at physical music and everything that is tangible in rock and metal, which is something that I certainly want to do my bit to kind of preserve some part of in an era when everything is digital and albums are all just a little square on your phone and everything. I enjoy being able to go out there and hold something, the real thing, and hopefully you're interested in that too, and that's why you are here. My video here today, first one back after Christmas for me, and I went a little bit mad over Christmas. I've picked up a lot of stuff. I picked up some stuff when I was, away over the holiday. Certainly enough for multiple videos worth. But this one today, I'm going to have less kind of individual items than usual, but because this video is going to focus particularly on a couple of box sets and things that are going to take enough kind of, enough of the moment, it just on their own. So let's get into it. The first one I have, and that will be kind of the crux really of this video, there's some stuff afterwards, but this is like the new biggest thing in my collection. We have the Celtic Frost Danse Macabre box set. When this was put out at the end of last year, when it was announced, I was like, oh god, because I knew that would be 100 odd quid that I, whatever it was going to be, that I was going to have to spend, because Celtic Frost are my all-time favourite band, and you all kind of dream of having your favourite band put out something kind of beautiful like this, and just the essential thing where you can just fawn over every single item. It was absolutely a must-have. The Danse Macabre box set doesn't necessarily, it's not all kind of brand new exclusive to vinyl material or anything, because the Noise Records reissue campaign from a few years ago, all of the studio albums that are contained in this box have been available now, readily available for a good few years, but there is some stuff in this that was like, oh, that's like the essential stuff, and I was going to buy it anyway, but there is stuff in this that it feels like more and more of the Celtic Frost kind of back catalogue and Hellhammer back catalogue is becoming available, which is great. On the back here, we have all of the content, looking absolutely wonderful in terms of just presentation there. This is, as you can see, the kind of coloration version. I believe there was another version that was the glow-in-the-dark one, where all of the records were just that sort of, generic, sort of semi-translucent glow-in-the-dark feel. 1984 to 1987 from Celtic Frost is what is captured in this, which is a very short period of time, and it's certainly not a completionist Celtic Frost set in that regard, because it doesn't have obviously Cold Lake, but then also Vanity Nemesis, which was included in those fairly recent reissues, doesn't contain, for me, the very best Celtic Frost material, which goes to Monotheist much later down the line, and then going into Triptychon. But 1984 to 1987 is the essential trajectory where the legend is made, right? Like, it's 3 short years which you see this band evolve from, doing the Apocalyptic Raids EP for Hellhammer at the beginning of 1984 to where they are by the end of this is the likes of which we have, rarely if ever seen, in terms of revolution, not only in one band, but that then has ripples out going it forever. It's probably the most significant kind of run and period of creativity for a metal band, just behind Metallica's first 5 and Sabbath's 70s run. That is the caliber that we are talking about here. I mean, there's a paragraph here on the back that I won't read the whole thing, but seems to convey to me what I think I'm trying to get at, which it almost seems churlish to regard Celtic Frost as one of the great extreme metal bands because they were so much more than that. It's better to hail them as among the finest extreme and experimental bands of the 1980s, and I think that is pretty much on the money, and that sort of spirit of anything goesness, I think, is what this particular box set does capture. So let's get inside. There is a lot to go through in this. For a start, it takes a moment to actually get the lid off. There we have it. Printing on the inside, only death is real, always. But the first item we have in this is the Visual Aggression 7-inch, which is not a record that kind of existed in the 1980s that has been kind of faithfully recreated as most of this is. This is something that has been made new for this release. Essentially almost like in a memoriam piece, I suppose, because we have the Martin Eric Ain cover art there, which looks rad. Martin Eric Ain's looks over the years were a particular part of a particular personality in Celtic Frost, but obviously he passed away a few years ago. Sadly, could not be involved in all the recent kind of unearthing of that kind of period and the legacy that they've been doing. But we have on this the Visual Aggression track, which is from the Emperor's Return EP, but the 1988 remix of it. But side 2 is Journey into Fear, which is kind of an offcut from that era, and it's a really rabid little song. So just silver 7-inch there. A nice wee little item to kick off the set. Next, we have a large band poster. Always going to expect something like this in a set of this size. This side is one of my favourite images of Celtic Frost because Celtic Frost fashion over the years, particularly the Pandemonium era, which is when this is taken, they get all like kind of new romantic. Look at Martin with the ruffs there. Look at Tom with the floral jacket. Reed St. Mark's got an excellent scarf on. Wonderful poses going on. Great picture. Flip side is more of a traditional sort of, proto corpse painted black metal Celtic Frost look from kind of Megatherion era. But lovely, grand, big poster of the guys involved there. Next thing is really quite cool, and certainly one of, I think, the selling points of this particular box. It is this book, A Morbid Tale, Celtic Frost, 1984 to 1987. It's pretty hefty. Not hefty as in, most of the images and so on that you find in this are just already kind of iconic Celtic Frost photos and everything that are, the Only Death is Real book that I've shown in a previous video has, most of those, and that's a real hefty book. But this newly done interviews with Tom G. Warrior and Reed St. Mark as well, which I'm really glad that he was included in this. The kind of classic era Celtic Frost drummer got to have some of his insight on the period. Really good interviews in terms of just in a fairly concise little story, getting a lot of information about particularly the writing and recording of these records. So if you're interested in how the material in this era kind of came to be and the timeline and everything, this is a really, really good little book that I will certainly return to when I have needs to. So excellent stuff there. We now get into really the 12 inches in the albums and everything that we have here. So we start off, of course, with Morbid Tales, the debut Celtic Frost album, sometimes termed a mini album, which, I mean, a lot of the kind of the story of Celtic Frost in this era and this particular box set comes from the kind of compromise nature of what was going on between Celtic Frost and then what their label kind of was allowing them to achieve, which makes again the recent kind of Noise Records reissue campaign to dig up all of this stuff has a tinge of the ironic to it. But Morbid Tales initially issued us a mini album, but they basically went to the studio and went, we're going to record a whole album anyway, and then it very quickly became a whole album. So I mean, the idea that sometimes people call to make a Theory on the debut, and the idea of that being a debut record to me is just bananas. But this album is Celtic Frost at their initial form, having just moved out of what Hellhammer was, and for that you've got to say it's unbelievably ambitious still. I mean, look at that. That's maybe the prettiest record in the lot, I think. That kind of lovely blood red swirl, but I think it sounds quite professional, this, for a kind of a early 1980s mid 80s extreme metal record. I mean, if you put this next to what Bathory was recording at the time, or Seven Churches by Possessed or something, there's a professional sounding quality to this, but it is it's the riffiest, hardest going Celtic Frost record, but incredibly with real moments of like, oh, this is setting out what kind of band this is going to be. Like, there's the song Danse Macabre, which I think quite nicely gives its name to the whole box set, because it does capture that spirit of like, we're an extreme metal band, but this is where we're gonna be going beyond anyone else. So a wonderful start to the trajectory there. Next is the one that is maybe the most kind of essential pickup from this new set and everything, because like I said, like most of the liner notes and everything and the inlays are the same as the other Celtic Frost reissues, because they're sort of, again, faithfully preserving what how those records were meant to look like and everything. But the Emperor's Return EP from Celtic Frost has not been readily available on vinyl. I think it's 37 years, it says on the back. This is the first time it's been made on vinyl since, which is 1985, since it was released, to 2022 when this set came out. And this is like one of the most iconic, essential bits of 1980s extreme metal, certainly EPs, ever. So I'm like, I've looked, of course I have, online to try and find like, original copies of Emperor's Return. That's too much money that I'm gonna spend on that right now. But so I was elated when, particularly when they announced this set, I was like, oh my god, Emperor's Return is in there. Excellent. Because this is, I mean, weirdly, like it. I sometimes think that this should be higher up in terms of like when I think of the best EPs ever than it is, because it's the iconic extreme metal EP from my favorite band, and it's in those higher regions when I think about that, for sure. But when I think about Broken by Nine Inch Nails or like Haunting the Chapel by Slayer being the two that always come to mind for me, this record, like 5 songs, 2 of them are directly lifted recordings from Morbid Tales, and of the remaining 3, one of these songs, Circle of the Tyrants, goes on to be re-recorded in its kind of definitive form on the next album. So there's not a lot of kind of exclusive material necessarily on this. It is probably the most vicious, pure, like just high adrenaline metal maniac Celtic Frost recording there is, even more than Morbid Tales, because I mean, like I said, that sort of compromise in studios and everything. It has a lower production quality than Morbid Tales, but it has a real just ravenous, like falling over themselves with intensity feel to it. It's like the version of Circle of Tyrants that's on here is unbelievably speedy and crazy, and then the 2 remaining tracks at the end, Visual Aggression and Suicidal Winds, are full on Celtic Frost riff storm. So that is absolutely wonderful. The first recording with Reed St. Mark on drums, and you can hear him just like, oh my god, I play in a band like this now, do I? On a similar dark green to that, so that looks absolutely lovely. But I mean, just the fact that this was made available in this set is what I'm like most pleased about, because now I'd have just the item with this cover and everything, the Emperor's Return EP, and that does lead us into what is probably the centerpiece of this era of Celtic Frost and their creativity. Certainly the record that if you have any experience with Celtic Frost, you will immediately recognise this album. To Megatherion, arguably the greatest heavy metal album cover of all time. Like, it's in the conversation. It's in the top 10. It's a first draft pick for sure. This is, I mean, again, like I said about the preserving the gatefolds and everything how they were, the Giga Satan painting on the outside, and then opening up and having this even more bizarro Giga painting in the middle. It has always looked wonderful. But this is, probably the artistic peak of Celtic Frost in this era. Not in terms of what is the boldest, although this takes everything that was laid down on Morbid Tales and Emperor's Return and goes so much further with it and crystallizes it into something just that will stand the test of time forever. That's why this, album is as iconic as it is. But Into the Pandemonium, which we'll get to, is certainly the Celtic Frost record that is the most experimental and the most firing off in every which direction and the most unchained. To Megatherion is so bold, and it does things that no metal record had done to that point. But it's also incredibly everything is in focus and everything is in line, and it has a very cohesive idea of what it is and its own atmosphere and what it is it's trying to achieve. And it is this, satanic, infernal, magisterial, fantastical, even very much so at times, just opus. This is a masterpiece, one of the greatest metal records of all time, unquestionably. Here we have it on a sort of black and silver, black and grey on either side look, and one of the all-time first draft picks, great metal albums ever. Next is the EP of the set that I suppose was available before. It's the Tragic Serenades EP, which, as said, was kind of included in the recent reissues from before, but this is an EP that I maybe don't spin very much, because the reason they made this EP was that Martin Ericaine was not around for the recording of To Megatherion, and so they decided to, to improve some of the mixing and everything as well. They went in and re-recorded a couple of the songs from it with Martin Ericaine's bass on it. But every subsequent reissue of To Megatherion has included the Martin Ericaine bass versions of the songs that are on this, just on the main album. So I feel like since that, this record has sort of it's lost its kind of its novelty and essentialness, I guess. But it is still a great part of the era. I mean, lovely stark black room cover art, and it does have the re-recorded kind of To Megatherion era version of Return to the Eve as well from Morbid Tales, which is great to hear that kind of contrast of sounds going on. Great picture on the back, a very good one from Martin Ain there. And this is on a sort of black and kind of pink. You might not be able to see it too much there, but there's a sort of light pink, magenta-y sort of look to how that record is. Next up is maybe the most bizarre thing in this entire set, which is this release, which is simply known as the Collector's Celtic Frost, which is another one that says it's been made available for the first time in 35 years. 37 years for Emperor's Return and 35 for this. But I own a copy of this, or a 12-inch copy of this. A 7-inch. Even this obviously the 12-inch. The 7-inch copy of this, which is unofficial, right? That's some bootleg or kind of some label in kind of the early 2000s did their own sort of version of what this is, but they took the Collector's Celtic Frost thing, turned it to a 7-inch, and on the B-side it has the Inevitable Factor, which is a track from around kind of this era that isn't included actually on any of the releases in this. I think the recent Into the Pandemonium reissue has basically everything from this kind of era, all on kind of the second LP. This does miss a couple things out, but so there is a weird unofficial 7-inch version with even more music on it that I have before, but the proper 12-inch version of the Collector's Celtic Frost, which contains just one song, and it is, like I said, one of the most bizarre, if you are in on Celtic Frost and you are in on all of the weird decisions that were made in that time and the weird creative leaps, I feel like this is one of those moments that's how deep down on that iceberg are you? Because this is simply their cover of In the Chapel in the Moonlight by none other than Dean Martin, a old classic crooner song given the Celtic Frost treatment, because that's how kind of far off the deep end they were at this point. With it being just one track, essentially, it looks amazing. It's got this kind of, on this side it has the printed kind of skull from the cover art there, and just the one song on it, but that's a real, the 1984 to 1987 trajectory. It's not quite representative of how everything was without In the Chapel in the Moonlight. But that, of course, that spirit reaches its represented its most well on the album that these kind of EPs are centering around, which is into the Pandemonium, which, like I said, is Celtic Frost in this period at their most boundaryless. Where, you know, we did the album club on this, and I wanted to go like, you know, first Celtic Frost album club, let's just pick the furthest out there one and just convey, like, fully just dive into the deep end to convey the spirit of what was going on at this time. This record is nuts. It's completely unhinged, and in terms of representation of that, it is a masterpiece as well. You know, if you like experimental records, metal records, that the feeling of kind of anything could happen on any track, that you can go here and here and you don't know what is lying around each corner. Every metal record to have done that in the last like 35 years probably owes some kind of debt to this, because nothing had done it like this before. You have the Hieronymus Bosch, you know, the triptych, corner of the triptych, album art for Into the Pandemonium, another, you know, wonderful looking gatefold going on there, again preserved from how it always was, that kind of high art sensibility that was going on with Celtic Frost at this time. But you have on this, you know, a new wave cover that opens it, pretty much the invention of goth metal. The classical instrumentation from To Make a Therion is taken to ludicrous extremes on this. You have like hip hop drum samples and R&B backing vocals, and it's, you know, alongside kind of the traditional brutal Celtic Frost riffing. It's one of the most roads where we're going, we don't need roads things that any metal band has ever done. Maybe the most fearless metal record ever recorded. As I said, fashion around at this point in time, particularly top notch. That's Tom in his NASA shirt that you can just see peeping through there, big into space at this point. This is on a kind of olive green vinyl, which is nice, suits the colour palette of the record. And yeah, there's one more record in this set, but kind of as the culmination point really of the classic Celtic Frost era, after which they fairly soon, you know, imploded. This is like you've reached maximum kind of capacity for just how wide you've cast the net. Like, it would have been amazing to see where they'd gone next, but they didn't necessarily need to make more records to inspire the kind of fervent oh my god after this that they'd reached through this. The final record in the collection is another EP from that era. It's the I Won't Dance EP, which is another one that was made, you know, freshly available for this set, which is great. It contains just, you know, the song I Won't Dance from Pandemonium on the A side, but the B side I think I'm particularly interested also because of how they've done Pandemonium on this time, because Pandemonium is the traditional 10-track version of that album, which I am used to kind of in the CD era and whatnot. I am used to, you know, at the very least, an 11-track bass version of Into the Pandemonium, which contains the song Tristesses de la Lune, which is the like full-on French opera classical violin piece, but then also the metal version of the same composition, Sorrows of the Moon, which is my favourite Celtic Frost song from that particular record and era. I'm glad that, you know, if you have to have one of those versions on the record, even though, like I said, it's my favourite song, the instrumental or the classical instrumental kind of full-on French opera piece version, I'm glad that that's the one you have on the album, because that's the one that most typifies like the ping-pong and back and forth between all of these different extreme areas of the record. But Sorrows of the Moon, the metal one, is included on the B side of this, so this is where I've got to go if I want to spin that particular track. Also contains the alternate version of One in Their Pride, which is the kind of full-on hip-hoppy, you know, moon landing piece from Pandemonium, but this is like the longer, slightly sparser kind of ambient, you know, spookier version on this. So that is you know, the A side is just a track from Pandemonium, but the B sides here are two, you know, more interesting pieces from the Pandemonium era. And again, not even everything from all of the different recordings that you can dig up from these times are included on this. This is on sort of a white, like, cow print version, probably another of the nicer looking records in the set. And like I said, that's 1988, and after that they pretty much are done, and the Celtic Frost story as it follows on happens with its ups and downs, but, you know, eventually, like I said, reaching a point for me far beyond, you know, down the line from these records that hits an even higher artistic high point. But those are the records with which the revolution happens. There are a couple just more of little things in this set that are really cool. We have a cassette here of the Celtic Frost Grave Hill bunker rehearsals, which, as suggested, rehearsals from just their little practice space that they had. This is from the Morbid Tales era. This is included, these songs again on the older reissue of Morbid Tales. They're on the second LP and everything, but it's nice to have it here in like a proper, rehearsal bunker demo. It looks like the Hellhammer demos with the little, artwork and everything. So that's a cool little ditty to have. We also have this pin badge of the Necromantic Union, which is very cool. Got a nice little demon there, but I'd never seen one of these out in the wild or anything compared to just like the heptagram pin. But the Necromantic Union, that's Celtic Frost's fan club in the 1980s when every metal band had to have their own little fan service or whatever. But I mean, for the diehards, that's an awesome little thing to have in this set. We got a patch here of just the Danse Macabre art, not too crazy because the art is basically just black with the winged Celtic Frost logo, but cool. And then maybe the maddest thing in this whole set is this, which is a USB stick, a heptagram USB stick. This just contains digitally everything, all the music, so you've got it if you bought the set. But fucking heptagram USB. This is mental. I couldn't believe that this was in here. Like, what is the mould to get this thing going? But I mean, that's peak Celtic Frost fandom right there. You've got a fucking USB stick with the only diff is real pentagram and all of that. And yeah, like I said, this is, for me, it was obviously a must buy, but also this is like full on prize item in the collection now. The big set from, for me, the best band to ever do it. It goes pride of place over there on top of that shelf. And yeah, what a band, what a legacy. Very much check out everything in here if you've never heard Celtic Frost before. It will blow your mind when you think about what was being done at the time. So that is, like I said, the largest kind of item that I had to talk about. But there are some other kind of box set-ish things that I'd grabbed that I'm referring to here. Candlemass, Epicus, Doomicus, Metallicus. This is the new Peaceville reissue box set version of this essential metal album. Weirdly, this is billed as a 35th anniversary reissue of this record. Epicus, Doomicus, Metallicus came out in 1986. This set, I believe, came out in 2022, so you've gained a year there. But Candlemass are a band who, I've been a big fan of for a long time, but I feel like I've never been a bigger fan of them than I am now. And getting, this set version of this, the place where it all started, and spending time with it over the last few weeks has really, been a lovely affirmation of that, because this is, the birth of Epicus, Doomicus, Metallicus. If you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. And this is the birthplace of epic doom metal. And it's a style that's still producing some of the best metal records of the year into the modern day. Some of the most acclaimed albums around. So for me, this is again similar to those Celtic Frost records and everything. Where if you're looking at the kind of the spirit of revolution that was going on in metal in the 1980s across that decade, where you can start it with Iron Maiden and Angel Witch and Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath, and by the end of that decade you are at Altars of Madness, and extreme metal has kind of become solidified into distinct subgenres and everything. This record is one of those essential moments of kind of subversiveness where that happens. So in this set, we of course have, first of all, the album itself, Epicus, Doomicus, Metallicus. I never realised how kind of like psychedelic and strange the back cut of this. I don't know if I ever owned a CD or anything, but like you look at this, and the front it's stark, and this is probably still Candlemass's darkest record. Like one of the things I really love about Epicus, Doomicus, Metallicus in particular is it has this feel of like, something genuinely like haunted. Like I always think it sounds like kind of like an old monk in a monastery, pottering about and pulling out ancient, dusty old tomes and reading incantations from them. It has a genuinely kind of sort of, harrowing kind of dark atmosphere. But then on the back, fucking funky time. Hell yeah, look at those guys absolutely living it up. Great pictures of Leif Edling at this point in time. But this is, essentially a perfect record. Like, it's 6 songs, and every one of them is, a piece of doom metal history. Inside, we got some cool stuff inside, just the album sleeve here. First of all, we have this letter, which is, kind of photocopied or whatever, but like, it's handprint written from Leif Edling, who is, the kind of core member of Candlemass. He's been there writing the songs in their whole, 35-year plus duration. Incidentally, I just did an interview with Leif about the Candlemass's brand new record for Knotfest that you can go and find if you are so inclined. But it was an emailer, and the responses that he sent back were full of like emojis and exclamation marks and everything, which I had to delete them out of the responses, obviously, but it's very cute, and this letter carries a similar kind of like excitable energy, which is great for the guy who writes such dark, somber metal songs. We've also got here a poster, which I think is very cool. New album out now, the ultimate and epic doom metal. This is great. If I was the kind of person who like covered every surface in posters as opposed to like just a couple of big ones as I have, I'd put that up. I think that's cool. And then we also have, not quite as intense as the Celtic Frost one, but we have an Epicus Journey, which is a little booklet detailing the just very early years of Candlemass and how they came to be and the recording of this album and so on, which is very cool to have. The album itself is on a kind of like silver vinyl there. So, as I said, staple metal for me. Like, this is one of those essential points of invention in the metal timeline. But also in this box set, we do have, first of all, the Witchcraft demo, which is from 1985. I had never really gone to listen to this before picking this up, so this was very cool because this is really, the birthplace of Candlemass, the first proper demo, and it's really cool sounding, I think, because there's a song on the very first song on the first side is a song called War Child, which does not make it onto the album, and it's like Candlemass as just a heavy metal band, right? Like, it's not full on become epic doom metal yet, and it has that just kind of trad metal sensibility, which is really fun and cool to hear. And then you have versions of Crystal Ball and A Sorcerer's Pledge that sort of have a similar vibe to it. I think it's really cool. Leif Edling does vocals on this, I believe, because Candlemass never had a staple singer in those kind of early years. That's why they had to get a session vocalist on Epicus, who eventually now 30 years later has become their main vocalist again. But not a hot take, I think, to say that Leif Edling's vocals are not as good. That's why they went on to get all these other great singers. But, for the early days, it does sound very cool. This is on a white vinyl, which I always like. That is nice. And then the other side is the OAL Studio demo from December 1985, which has, similar kind of vibes going on. And then we also have the Uplands Vashbi 1985 rehearsals from November 1985, which I don't know how often I will spin this one necessarily, considering of its tracks, 3 of them are different versions of Under the Oak, which, great song. Maybe the weakest on Epicus, Doomicus, Metallicus, but, it's cool to have there again as part of the compilation of everything essential or everything that is noteworthy from this era. This is on a black vinyl. So, again, for me, this is one of those great little periods from a band. Don't necessarily know if this is the greatest Candlemass record, even though, like I said, it's a near perfect record. And the reason you can't for sure say it is the best Candlemass record, despite the fact that it has that lovely box set treatment, is, of course, Nightfall by Candlemass, their follow-up record. This is just a normal, 1 LP, 1 sleeve version. I've got, my friend has got a gatefold version of this album. I don't know where he got that from, but this is like, if Epicus, Doomicus, Metallicus is, you know, that kind of the haunted birthplace of that style of music, then this Nightfall is epic doom metal in full flight. Like this is an absolutely magisterial powerhouse of a record. It's the one where they have Messiah Marcolin there in the middle, clutching his fro in the throes of passion, joining on vocals, probably seen as their most iconic frontman. And the sound they gain on this is just massive. Like, it is every bit the you know, romantic kind of painting of its cover art that they were using at this point in time. A lot of their most, you know, kind of essential songs, like Bewitched, The Well of Souls, At the Gallows End, like I don't care what kind of metal you like and where your heart lies, when that riff comes in, like, that's, you've got to admit, that's hard hitting. Again, could be this, could be Epicus, back and forth, not sure, but together they do, you know, they represent the kind of the totality of the path where that style of particular strand of heavy metal would be taken forward. Absolutely essential stuff. I do need to buy particularly the next couple of Candlemass records, the next couple of the kind of classic era Messiah Marcolin ones, because I think it's kind of forgotten about how good those ones are. Like Nightfall, really, you know, it's the pinnacle. But you know, particularly like Ancient Dreams, the next record has got, you know, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, and all of those, you know, great songs on there. So would love to pick up those soon. But what a record, what a triumph this is. And then the last thing I have for this video is not, you know, a box set or anything in any way, but it is I thought I would throw it in while we're talking about you know, that again, that 1980s timeline of revolution and subversiveness, and the records that lay down where still to this day we are proliferating out. And it's Venom and black metal. Of course it is. This is, I mean, if you have watched all of the Vinyl Tap videos up to this point, one of them I had Welcome to Hell, the first Venom record. BMG, the record label, have been putting these Venom records out on their 40th anniversary. So in 2021, we had Welcome to Hell. I was very much hoping that the following year they would do the same for black metal, so I could get, you know, its twin, and of course they did. This record, I mean, I'm a huge Venom fan. I always will be. I do not look at these records like, you know, oh, metal is, we've gone further than that, because this is the core, right? This is the spirit. This is every, you know, spit in the eye, burn the church down energy that we have, the heart of extreme metal. Like, this is the core right here, and it excites me to no end hearing that still to this day. Like Welcome to Hell, it's on a kind of not quite as splattery as Welcome to Hell, but, you know, there's some colour there, which I think I said before, like when I had the last one, almost a little bit gratuitous for Venom to have, you know, fancy colorations, because Venom are not it's not meant to be a kind of a deluxe experience band. Venom is the, you know, the spiked knuckle to the face, just without any grace or decorum. But like for its significance, this record deserves all of the you know, reverence that it gets. I mean, for a start, like, I own so many black metal records that credit their players the way these do, where, you know, they're not, Kronos is not the bassist or vocalist. He is the rabid captor of bestial malevolence, and Abaddon is the barbaric guardian of the seven gates of hell, Mantas, grandmaster of Hades and mayhem. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, even on the inlay, they're credited with different shit, more bullshit, like absolute nonsense. There's also continued thanks to Venom, for without their help, this album would not have been possible. Superb. But this record, I mean, similarly to the two Candlemass ones, I struggle to entirely pin down which I think the best Venom record is, because Welcome to Hell is, you know, it's rawer, and I think that kind of the core essence of what Venom is and the energy that they brought to the world, I think is captured most, you know, purely in Welcome to Hell. But the thing you got to say about black metal is, you know, every song's an anthem. Like, I think, getting into Venom retrospectively, like, of course, Welcome to Hell when it came out changed everything. But if you are coming to Venom in the present day, black metal, it's the name, right? Like, it's the album that gave its title to metal's most infamous subgenre, so it is the one where you go first. But you look at, I saw Venom Inc. play this in full at Bloodstock last year, and like, if you're going to do one of those, you want them to do this one, because black metal, Countess Bathory, the speed tracks like Sacrifice and Heaven's on Fire, like the insane, like maybe the most nasty speed metal track on the planet at that point, and that Heaven's on Fire and There's Nothing You Can Do, Heaven on Fire, and When You Die You'll Go There Too, like that's the stuff. And obviously, like the song Black Metal, like we saw myself and co-host Sam and Alec as well, we were at that Anal the Thrax show with Sai, and Sai at the end of their set just did a bass only cover of black metal, and it's like, yeah, no matter who you see play it, whether it's Kronos himself or a local band, someone plays black metal, and it's like, that's what we're all here for. That's what we're all sharing, and it is absolutely full on essential. 10 out of 10. Even Teacher's Pet. 10 out of 10. Everything about Venom in this era. It's my toxic trait. I still think it's cool. Like this. But even when it's camp and they don't know it, or camp and maybe they do know, whatever. Like this poster. I would put this up. Like, it just exudes the energy of heavy metal and what it's about. Got the home taping is killing music. So a Venom sticker in the corner, which even that, like Hellhammer famously ripped that off, their own version of it with, Venom are killing music, Hellhammer are killing Venom. So these records, they are, that you can feel there, the gauntlet being laid down. Like, we've done this. Can you play harder? Can, like, we as another band, like, can we be nastier than this? Can we be meaner than this? Can we go further than this? And the dominoes being knocked down there, absolutely wonderful stuff. I wonder if they're going to keep going from here. Like 1983, no Venom record, so I don't know if I'm expecting one this year. I would like them to, if they went on to do War with Satan, I would certainly buy it, because that's probably the last classic Venom album. I think there's classic songs up to kind of around Possessed at least, I think, but always on my mind, Venom and black metal and the period from that time. And that is the end of this particular Vinyl Tap selection from myself. Thank you for being with us. Like I said, I picked up loads over the holiday, and certainly enough for multiple videos worth. So other stuff that's from maybe more recent records from last year or whatever. I'll be back with that at some point. Hopefully Sam will be able to come on and do one at one point. Elliot will have more, I'm sure. Thank you very much for coming and watching and being here with us. Like I said, if you are here just on the YouTube, check out the podcast. Like, that's where all the clips go from, and hopefully we can entertain you and point you into some records that you like, which I hope this series does as well. So there'll be more where this came from. The podcast is, the engine is really going now, going into the new year. So thank you for being with us. See you there for all of that. I thank you. I hail you. See you next time.